Hey guys, my name is Pastor Marcus, and for those who don't know me, I am a church planter, author of multiple books, including my most recent book, Hidden, and the host of the Mission Collective, which is an online digital evangelism school for secular mission. Now, before I go on and answer the question why I'm no longer into the church growth conversation, I want to ask you to please like and subscribe this channel because whenever you like and subscribe, it really helps the channel to get out there and reach more people. Now, when I first started pastoring, my big passion was church growth. Some of my earliest podcasts and blogs revolved around this one topic, and I was constantly reading and promoting the latest church growth books and material. But those days are long gone. I'm not actually into the church growth conversation anymore, and I'm gonna tell you why. But first, allow me to set the scene. For the most part, conservative Christians have never embraced the church growth movement. For them, church growth equals church compromise. In fact, I have met conservative churches that are on the verge of death. They're down to 20 people, all old, no youth, no families, and they don't really seem to care. They would rather see their church die than change anything. They refuse to compromise. Now, here's the thing. I don't really gel with this kind of attitude at all. Because in my experience, this anti compromise vibe is less about love of truth and more about fear and insecurity. In other words, it doesn't usually come from a place of strength, but a place of fragility. And in my decade as a pastor, I've learned that most displays of strictness in the church are actually rooted in fear, not strength. Now, forget the dying church. Look at the dying neighborhood, the dying city. For anyone to say, we're not going to change a single thing for those dying people, even if it means they can encounter life in Jesus, tells me this group doesn't know what life in Jesus is either. So when I say I'm not into the church growth conversation anymore, trust me, I am not in that camp at all. Now, progressive Christians, on the other hand, tend to be more open to the concept of church growth. They want to see the church grow, the kingdom spread, and they measure success by how much attendance a church has. Low attendance means we aren't reaching our city, so let's get creative and do whatever we have to do to reach it. Now, I love this attitude because it's the attitude that I have. I'm all for creativity and innovation, and I'm all for sharing the hope of Jesus with others. And so for many years, I got swept into the church growth movement. But here are three reasons why I'm no longer into it. Number one, church growth, for all of its beauty and positive flair, is ultimately a finite metric. It measures how many people are attending a program as a sign of how successful that church is. And here's what I've learned over the years. Finite metrics like numbers are very sexy. They make you look good, but they have a giant weakness. And that is that all they can do is tell you how many people are showing up. They say nothing about how many people are becoming more like Jesus. This leads to point number two. Church growth is essentially a spectator model. My church has 20 people who sit on a pew every Sabbath morning. Yours has 1,000. Yours is considered successful, mine is not. But if you really think about it, the only difference is one church has more spectators than the other. And the gospel isn't about producing spectators, it's about producing disciples who make disciples. Now, some churches pull that off, but for the most part, modern churches are basically a weekend performance where a big crowd shows up to watch the clergy do their thing. Few of the people who are there will ever learn how to participate with God in the radical work of making other disciples. They simply show up, enjoy the program, and go home. And this leads to my final point. Church growth, even at its best, doesn't even come close to what God wants to do in and through the church. In his book, Letters to the Churches, Francis Chan makes an interesting observation that I want to paraphrase. Imagine you plant a church in your city that grows to 1,000 members. And then by the next year, you are running 3 separate services with 1,000 attendees at each one. So you end up having services all weekend, 3 on Saturday and 3 on Sunday, until you have 6,000 people going through your church building every weekend. Now, if that was the case, your church would be considered a wild success. But think about this. I live in a small city with only 2 million people. If I planted this church, pastors would flock from all over the world to attend my church growth secret seminars. But if I'm honest, my wildly successful megachurch would only account for 0.003% of my city's population. Not to mention the massive expenses, the upgrade in city infrastructure, and the maintenance needed to accommodate such a large church. All that for just 0.003% of my city's population. Now, say we decided let's reach 10% of the city's population, not 50, not even 40, just 10%. That's 200,000 people, which means you would need approximately 33 megachurches of the one I just described, with all of the accompanying expenses and infrastructure upgrades, to be able to minister to 200,000 people every single weekend. And again, that's only 10% of a small city. And this is the main reason why I'm not into the church growth conversation anymore, because the entire model is just too flimsy and small to carry what I believe God is doing in the world. Because while I can't tell you what percentage of the population God is going to reach in my lifetime, I can tell you that 10% and less is probably not what he's interested in. God wants more because he loves more. And here's what I've come to believe, that the way forward, the way to root the gospel in the city, the way to spread the kingdom isn't with more, it's with less. It isn't with big, it's with small. Through micro churches that live relationally and missionally, we can reach our friends and they can reach their friends. This may not enable a 100% outreach effort. I don't think anything ever will, but I believe it can enable significantly higher levels of gospel rooting in our cities without the added burdens of astronomical finances, construction projects, or infrastructure upgrades. Now, if you want to learn more about this new approach to church planting, plus access over 30 hours of workshops on secular mission, I want to invite you to join my online school, The Mission Collective. You can find out more about it at thestorychurchproject.com/TMC. And the link is also in the notes below if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're in the city of Perth and you want to connect with a church like what I just described, head over to ther3network.com and send us a hello. Finally, if you have any questions related to missional movement, church planting, and evangelism in secular context, I want you to send me the question and I will make a video with my response. My email is pastormarcus@thestorychurchproject.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.